What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another web scraping tutorial. Today we're going to be talking about Selenium, what it's used for, and how you can implement that into your web scraping practices. If you're new around here, my name is McKay, and I'm currently working as a data engineer, a data scientist at a startup, kind of just doing a lot with data. And I wanted to make this video to kind of share what I've learned over the past couple years of web scraping, collecting data, processing data, and all of that. So today we're going to be diving into Selenium and what is Selenium. So if you've never used Selenium before, Selenium is basically a way that we can use code. We're going to be using Python in this example. We can use Python to mimic a browser, specifically a Chrome browser. And what this allows us to do is it allows us to perform a lot of actions with web scraping. It allows us to interact with the web page. Most of the time, Selenium is used for UX and UI testing, so it's not specifically used just for web scraping. It can be used as an automation tool. It can be used for different processes. A lot of people create bots with it to automate processes and automate tasks. So Selenium is a super useful tool, and it goes beyond that of just web scraping. Today, I'll show you kind of the basics of how you can get started with it, and then you can use it for a lot of different projects that you may be working on web scraping, collecting data, or just automating some of those monotonous tasks that you've wanted to automate before. So in this video, I'm going to show you a couple of things. The first thing we're going to go over is getting set up with Selenium, and then I'm going to show you how you can open a browser with Selenium. The next thing that we'll do is we'll interact with the web page. This includes scrolling, clicking on some buttons, etc. So let's jump into it. So what you need to do is you actually have to download Chrome. So make sure you have Google Chrome downloaded. If you don't have Google Chrome downloaded, just go to Google and search, or go to Safari or whatever browser you're using and just search download Chrome. And then you can just download the latest Chrome. The next thing that you need to do is we need to download this thing called Chrome Driver. So what we're going to do is we're going to search Chrome Driver. And then it's this URL. It's just the first one right here. And so what this does is this allows you, this is kind of the software that allows you to interact with the Chrome package. So you need to make sure though that you have the Chrome version, as you can see right here. You need to make sure that you're using the right Chrome version and the right Chrome driver version. So the way that you can see your Chrome version is you just come up here in Chrome, you click on the three dots, and then you can go to Help, About Google Chrome, and it will tell you your version right there. So I'm on version 105 point whatever. So in Chrome, we're going to download probably just the latest version of the 105 Chrome driver. So we'll just click on this. I'm currently running a Mac 64 M1, so you need to download the version that is suitable for your OS. So if you're on Windows, you're going to download this Win32. If you're running Linux, you'll download this Linux 64. If you're on a Mac and you're not, but you don't have the M1 chip, so if you're on like kind of an older Mac, you can know that if you go to About This Mac up here in Preferences, and if it says Apple M1 anywhere in the chip, that means you need to download the M1. Otherwise, just download the 6.4. So I'll download the M1. And it's going to go to your downloads folder if you're on here. So as you can see, I'll pull this out into here so we can kind of get a better look. So it's going to download this. I've downloaded it a couple of times already into my downloads, but just unzip this. You can do that just by double clicking on Mac. And so now we have this Chrome driver executable. So this is basically just a piece of software that allows us to interact, like I said, with the Chrome browser and code. As well, if you haven't already, make sure that you pip install Selenium. So if you're using a virtual environment, whatever, I won't get into that, but just simply go open up a terminal or command line or whatever tool you use and just say pip install Selenium, like that. And I've already downloaded it, so it says everything's already satisfied. But if you haven't downloaded it, then it'll tell you like it's downloading all this stuff. So now what we're going to do is we are going to jump into a Jupyter notebook. So this Jupyter notebook, essentially what we're going to do in here is we're just going to go over some of the different ways that we can interact with this Chrome browser. So the first thing we need to do is we need to import our Selenium package. So we'll say from Selenium import WebDriver. And you can just run that, and if it ran and it has just a 1 right here, that means you're good. We're also going to import something else from the Selenium package, which is going to allow us to just interact with the CSS and the HTML of a web page. So we're just going to say from selenium.webdriver.common.by import by with a capital B like that. So this by doesn't have a capital B, but we're importing this modular class called by right here. So we can import those. And then the way that we actually start up the browser is we just say driver equals, we use this WebDriver module or class up here. We say driver equals webdriver.chrome with a capital C. And then you just need to pass in the path of this Chrome driver executable right here. So if it's still in your downloads file, make sure that you have it in your that you're passing in the path to your downloads file. But since it's on my desktop, I just am going to pass in that full path. I'm going to say user / my path is my first and last name / desktop / Chrome driver. And if you're on Mac, so we can run that. If you're on Mac, you're going to get this the first time, most likely. It says Chrome driver cannot be opened because Apple cannot check it for malicious software. Just go ahead and copy this, Command C, and then just Google it. So just hit OK, Google it, and it's going to say this. So all you have to do is come into this Stack Overflow right here. Sorry, I'll go back. So Google it, click on the first Stack Overflow, and then just copy this first command. So you can read the instructions, it's pretty simple. So you just need to open up a new terminal. And we're going to use a little bit of command line interaction to basically give permissions for this Chrome driver file to run since we downloaded it from the internet. So since mine is on my desktop, I'm going to change my directory. So to do that, we say cd and then just desktop for me. Just make sure that you're on your desktop, and then you can paste in that code and then replace everything that's in that name of executable with Chrome driver. Then it'll run. Then you can come back here and rerun this. So if you need to go back and rewatch that, just make sure you get that finished. It's pretty simple. So what this did is this ran and created a driver. So you're probably wondering like, hey, where I can't see anything, but if you just scroll over, we now have this Chrome browser that has been opened by this driver. So what we're going to start doing is we're going to start interacting with this browser using Python and code to kind of do a couple of things to automate tasks and kind of do stuff that we would have to manually do if we weren't using code. So the first thing that we'll do is I'll show you how you can actually get a web page using this Chrome driver, and we can go to an actual web page and we can kind of load that web page. So we are going to go to, it's called Cerebi.net. It's just like a website about all Pokemon and everything. So this is the actual URL right here. So it's basically just this, what it has is just this big table of Pokemon and like their Pokédex information, I guess, right? So we are going to tell our Chrome driver over here that we want to go to this same web page. So all we have to do is we just have to say driver.get, and then we have to pass in as a string that URL. And I just messed that up because I copied it from somewhere. So we just pass it in like that. I'll link this URL down in the description so you can just copy and paste it so you don't have to type everything out. So we run that, and then we can come over here and we can already see that our web driver has already loaded that. It looks like it's trying to load some ads down here, but it basically looks the exact same as this. I closed out of the ad on accident. But basically, essentially what we've done is we've used Python to go open up a browser and go to this web page. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to parse all the information off of this web page. The first way to actually do this is through something called Beautiful Soup. So with Beautiful Soup, we are just going to come over here and we're going to say from BS4 import Beautiful Soup with a capital S. And what we want to do is we just want to get all of these Pokemon, all the information about these Pokemon. So what I usually like to do is I like to just open it in a normal browser, and then we can use something called the Chrome Inspector tools, or like the Chrome Dev tools. So if you right click on a web page and you come down to inspect, and then it'll bring up all of like the HTML and CSS and JavaScript that's being run on that page. Then you can click on this like arrow and box up here, this mouse pointer in a box. Click on it, and then we can kind of see what the HTML and CSS is that's creating this page. And it'll show over on the right side over here kind of what's going on. So what we're going to do is what we want to do is we want to get this entire table, essentially. So let's see if we can find, so we click on it, it comes to main. So it looks like right here is the table, and it'll kind of highlight it as you highlight over here, right? And then it has all these TR stands for table row. And basically all we want to do is we want to get this table and basically just all of the rows in this table. So the way that we can do that is if we just use something called CSS selectors. So all we are going to do is we're first going to parse the page source from this driver and the page that we're on. So we'll say page source equals Beautiful Soup and then driver.page_source. And then we want to use a HTML parser since we're parsing HTML. So we do HTML.parser as the second argument. So now we have our page source. This is a Beautiful Soup object. If you have any questions about what Beautiful Soup is, you can read the documentation on it, or you can watch my other video that I published before this one on kind of some more basic intro to web scraping using Beautiful Soup. So basically what we're doing is we are taking this page source and we are tying it up into this Beautiful Soup object. So this is going to allow us essentially to parse very easily all of this HTML and CSS. So what we're going to do is we're going to use Beautiful Soup to parse out the CSS selectors. So to get that table, what we want to do is we want to use this Beautiful Soup object to then extract essentially that table. So we're just going to say Pokemon, the table, equals page source dot select. So this is going to get all of the elements that belong to this table. And then we're just going to basically extract this TSS or this CSS right here. So we'll say table. We're looking for a table with the class of this dex table. So we'll say select, and then in string table, class dex table. And then what we can actually do in the same line is we can say, okay, then go down to the T body and then go down to the TR, the table row. So we want to basically return everything that's in every TR. So if we say T body TR, so this is going to return every TR that's in that table. So now if we do Pokemon, we have a list of a bunch of those TRs. So if we do Pokemon at index like 50 or something, this now is the Pokemon that is at the TR 50. So this looks like it came back as Pikachu. Just the way that the table's set up, 50 happened to be Pikachu for some reason. It's probably because the way the page loads and everything. But so now what we're going to go into is I will show you how you can actually interact with a web page and input text, click on buttons, etc. So what we're going to do is we'll go to another web page. We'll say driver.get. And then the web page we're going to go to, I'm going to copy it from somewhere else. But it's basically just it's a web page to give us random integers. It's called random.org/integers. So if we go there, this is what it looks like. And then essentially what we're going to do is we're going to use our driver object to find these elements so that we can click on them, so that we can change the text. So that's why we imported this by up here, so that we can find those elements by CSS. So what we're going to do is we're just going to hit inspect on here. I'm going to make this page big so we can kind of see all of it. And then if you come to elements, what we want to do is we want to change these different inputs, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to change the number of numbers. So this one right here. So if we do the same thing, right click, inspect, and click on this little arrow up here. Basically what we want is we want this input right here. So the way that we find that by just using the driver is we can say, we can create a variable called like numbers, and we'll say equals driver.find_element. And then this is where we use the by. We're going to say by dot, then in all caps, CSS_selector, like that. And then we're basically just going to do it how we did it up here, but we're going to do this input. So we're going to say we want the input, and then we want the name equal to num. So we'll say input, and then name equals num, just like that. So that's how we found it. And so if we wanted to actually get rid of those numbers, so if we want to get rid of the 100 or whatever, we can say numbers.clear. And so now it's not there anymore. And then if we wanted to say put in 5, we could say numbers.send_keys, and then in a string we put in 5. So boom, we now have 5. And so let's say we've made code to automate that. Now what we want to do is actually get these numbers. So we want to hit this button right here. So we can hit inspect again, get numbers. And so this looks like it is an input with the value of get numbers. So that's what we're going to use. So we'll say submit button equals driver, just like we did before, driver.find_element, and then by.css selector. And then we're going to, it was an input type, so an input CSS tag, or HTML tag, input, and then value equals get_numbers. Value equals get, or it wasn't get underscore, it was just, yeah, get space numbers. So it needs to match exactly how it looks there, so that it knows what to find. So the way that CSS selectors work is you just put the tag, and then you can choose one of these value equals or class equals, and you just put those inside of brackets. If you're wondering, like, how can you replicate it on different stuff? But once again, go and watch my previous video. It kind of explains it a little bit more. Just search Beautiful Soup documentation or like CSS selector documentation. It's pretty simple. So if we run this submit button, it's not actually going to do anything, because all we've done is we've just found that element. So if we actually want to click on that button, we have to say submit_button.click. And there we go. We ran it and it worked like this. So it gave us these 5 random numbers. So as you can see, if you were to actually go and try to do this again without getting like the original page or hitting a button, like hitting this go back button, your code would break because it would try to find these CSS selectors. So I'll just like run that again real quick. So now if I were to just refresh this driver.findElement, it's going to break because it says invalid element state, which essentially just means that the element is not on the page anymore. So you'd have to either go back to like this base URL right here, and then you can do it, or you have to write some code to hit like that try again button. So then finally, if we wanted to actually clear and like close this browser, you just say browser, or I guess we called it driver.close. Hit driver.close and it no longer exists. So that is everything for this Selenium tutorial. Hopefully it kind of gave you an idea of what Selenium is and kind of the possibilities with Selenium. Selenium is by far one of the cooler automation tools that I've used in my time knowing how to code and web scraping and working on data engineering, data science projects. But that's it for this video. If you have any questions, be sure to drop them in the comments. If you could give this video a like and hit the subscribe button, that would be great as well. And if you have any other suggestions on videos that you might like to see in the future, be sure to leave those in the comments as well. And I will see you in the next video. Peace.